What's up, TikTok? Today I'm here with my Trailboss 250 Polaris. It's a two-stroke 250, but you don't have to mix gas because it has that mixer. I don't trust these things because if that fails while you're on a ride, then you're gonna blow up. So I don't ever use this. I'm gonna delete it. I just got this machine. It has low compression. At first, I was only getting about 55, 60 PSI. I just tested it again after I got all these plastics off. And I got it up to 75, but that's still not enough to start it. So I have a new piston on the way. Actually, it's already here. It's just being held at my local post office for absolutely no reason. So basically today I just wanted to show you how to break this machine down, and then tomorrow when I get the new piston, I will show you how to drop it in that cylinder, because we're going to do this without pulling the engine, because I hate pulling the engine, and it's a two-stroke, so don't really have to. As you can see, my garage is a fucking mess, so I'm working with limited room. So all of the plastics that I took off are over here. I didn't go over that because if you can't figure that out, you probably shouldn't be replacing a top end. It was super simple, like no shit, probably eight bolts to get this section of plastics off. That was the big one. And then there's a little front plastic right there. Other than that, and that seat over there, nothing else really had to come out. I took the airbox out. It's sitting right here. I don't think, this just doesn't look like a stock airbox. It might be. I don't know. I don't know really much about this quad. I traded a little 50cc scooter for this thing. So if we can get it running, it'll be a nice little trade. It does need a couple other things. As you can see, there's no CV axles connected. It does have this front chain, but it does not have this chain that is in the middle. You can see the sprocket right there and the sprocket right there. That's what runs the four-wheel drive. So I do need just that one chain, and then the four-wheel drive will work. Need the CV axles, and I'm pretty sure it's going to need a hub. Also, this tire is going completely flat, so I'd assume it has either a leak or something. But yeah, in this next part, I'll get into tearing down that engine, and then tomorrow when I get the piston, I'll make another video of putting that in. What's up, TikTok? So yesterday we got the bike broke down. Today I just picked up the new piston, and it looks like they sent me a gasket kit as well, which is awesome because I did screw up the gaskets. And this says it's for a Trailboss 250, 85 to 99, and 89 to 92 Big Boss. I have a Trailboss, so it doesn't matter. But it seems to be a decent gasket set. It's a like Amazon Chinese piston, whatever you want to call it. I haven't even looked at it yet. Stickers. I'm assuming this is the rings. It is. Here's my little circlips. Doesn't seem to be any scratching or scoring. Top of the piston looks really good. And this is, if you can see that, I don't know if you can, let me go out to the right. It's 72.46, which I believe is 0.02 over bore. At least that's what it was supposed to be. But actually, I don't think that's 0.02 over bore. I think that's 0.2 over bore, 0.21 over bore. So this might not fit in the jug. We'll find out. So I just checked the piston into the jug, and it does fit. It is super tight, but it does go in. So this is gonna work. I actually don't know if it's gonna work because of the scoring on the piston right there. Really, if I would have taken this apart before ordering the piston, probably would have gone for a little bit bigger piston and put a big bore in it and bored that out. But I didn't take it off first. I figured because it was a 96 that it actually wouldn't have been that bad and it was just normal wear, which it looks like for the most part it was, except for that. And I can feel it with my hand, but it doesn't feel crazy. It's right on the edge. It's right on the edge of if this is gonna work. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rings put on the piston. Looks like there's just 2 rings. There might be 3 rings in there, but only 2 spots. And then drop the piston in, and we'll get everything connected, lined up, get the jug back on, and we'll see if she fires. Alright, so I got the old piston out. This is what it looked like. It is pretty bad. I only saw this side yesterday. I didn't really see the front of it. It's pretty bad. Pretty bad. The bearing actually wasn't that bad. You can see where it got hot. But other than that, doesn't look too bad. Tons of carbon buildup on the underside of the piston. I also think I broke both of the little clips when I got it off. If you do, don't worry about that. Here's the rod that was in it. I'll be replacing all of this, so none of this mattered. If you're gonna be replacing all of this, none of this matters. I used a punch to beat that off the shaft. You just have to be careful. You don't want your crank to be swing, so like you don't want it. See how there's a little bit of side-to-side play? It's like at the verge of being bad. But I have no up and down play, so crank bearing is still good, but you really don't want the wiggle on the side, so don't beat on the side of it. Really hold the piston if you're going to be hitting it or using a punch. But now I'm just going to get that new piston connected to the new rod with the new bearing, the new everything. And then we'll put a new gasket on the jug, put a new gasket on the head. I am not going to be replacing these, I don't think. Actually, I might be replacing this one. It's pretty bad, and I already have this bolt almost off, so I probably am going to replace the exhaust gasket because they did send one in the kit. But yeah, that's probably the only ones I'm going to replace. We're going to replace the jug, the head, and the exhaust. I don't know what this O-ring's for. And then, of course, we're going to replace this bearing on the connecting rod. Put a new rod in it. So I'll be back when all of this stuff is in, and then we'll try to fire it. Okay, so we're back. I just wanted to update. I am going to end up replacing that gasket because this gasket looked pretty bad. This would be the exhaust. That little O-ring that came with the gasket kit, I'm assuming is for this intake boot. But the intake boot looks really good, feels really good. There's no leaks, so no real reason for me to take it off. Just risking fucking something up if I do that. So I am just going to put this one on. Get it on. All of these studs are pretty rusted. If I keep the bike long enough that I have to do another rebuild, probably gonna replace all those studs. The head studs don't look too bad, but all the other ones are pretty bad. So I'm gonna put that back on, but also just wanted to show you, we got the new piston connected to the rod. There's a bearing in there. I'm drawing a blank on what it's called right now. But there's a bearing that goes through the connecting rod, and then your pin that sits in these side two holes goes through, and then you have little circlips you have to get in. These circlips were so tough that I took a pair of pliers and clamped down on them on the end. It made a little bend. Sometimes that'll break it. The only reason I did that is because I have spares. If you don't have spares, I don't suggest that. Just try to finagle it in. But what you're going to want to do is put a little oil around the side of here. So if the side of the circlip is touching it, hopefully it slides and does not dig. You don't want to scratch your piston. You don't want to scratch your jug. Don't want to scratch really anything. So be really careful. This came with 2 rings, just like the old piston. I got them at 180. So I have the top ring facing the exhaust side, and this one is facing the intake side, the bottom ring. The rings were exactly the same. It didn't matter how I put them in, as long as the top side was facing the top. But it wasn't specific on which ring had to go in the top and which ring had to go in the bottom. I actually checked the model numbers, and they were the exact same. So, and then we also replaced this gasket because it came in the kit, and also because I destroyed that gasket taking it off. This is the other gasket that we're going to be replacing. That is just for the head. That gasket is right here. I have some small engine carbs, and this desk is a fucking mess. If you can see, this is what I work off of when I'm in the garage. So, but that gasket is also going to go on. And we're going to clean all of the carbon buildup off of the bottom of the head, and then drop the jug, drop the head in, and we'll see if she fires. Okay, so got the new piston in. As you can see, the exhaust is facing the exhaust. Rings were gapped correctly. This piston actually made it super easy. They had little rods in them. Let's see if this has it. So this did have it. Okay. So let's see if I can move this ring to where y'all could see it. You see that little post that's in between the gap? Shows you where the gap's supposed to be. I had gapped these at 180, and I was when I put the piston ring compressor on it, I was like, why is this not able to compress all the way? And I was looking for my skin. I gashed my finger pretty good, to the point where if it wasn't a finger, it would need stitches. So gonna have to get this done and then super glue that. Good old times in the shop. But just wanted to say, it was much easier for me to put the piston in first than I used zip ties going through these spaces, and zip tied to the frame up here to hold the jug in place after I had the piston, moved the piston all the way to the bottom, and then connected it to the rod. Not the way you have to do it. If you have a really good piston ring compressor, you can do it from the top and just, drop it down in. But because of where they put these head studs and where the adjuster is on my piston ring compressor, it didn't work. And we also broke a piston ring compressor while doing this. This one snapped her clean off after finding out, or before finding out, that the rings were not gapped correctly, which actually warped one of the rings, but it still sat in there. And like I said, this is, I'm not racing this quad. I'm not gonna, really beat on it that much. It's gonna be used to, drive around our property. And there's some trails over there in those woods. So, but not gonna beat on it too bad. This piston, I was reading some information on it. It looks like this piston is only intended to be used for 12 hours. And then you gotta rebuild again. So, not a very long lasting piston. But we'll see how it works. I've never heard this bike fire, so this is really just a little test for me. If this piston works well, I'll use it till it blows up and then throw like a Wiseco in it, and we'll probably redo the jug at that point as well, since we had a little bit of scoring there. And honestly, the crank, like I said, had that little bit of play side to side, no up and down, but little side to side. So I'd say the crank's going too, and the wind's blowing shit all over the place. There's the farm use, baby. But yeah, I'm gonna leave here. We're gonna get the head on, get everything back on that I need to fire it, and then we're gonna try to give her a few pulls, see if it fires, and then we'll put everything back together. Basically, I'm gonna throw the tank back in there. The carb I didn't even disconnect, if you can see. I just left it wired and kind of hung it over on this side. But we're gonna put the carb back in, put the air box back in, and we'll see if it fires up. And then, like I said, if it fires up, then we can, you know, go take it for a little ride. I don't have any CV axles, so got to be really careful with it, but we want to take it around the property. All right, and we're back. As you can see, got the carb back in the intake boot. Got the ignition coil on. I have the compression tester connected, head is on, everything is tightened and torqued to spec. The studs for the jug go to 18 foot-pounds. The head studs, I can't remember, but there is a torque spec for those as well. You could also just give it a couple ugga-duggas with a impact, but, you know, if you want to do it right, look up your torque spec. As you can see on the compression tester, we're up to 100 PSI. That's as high as I could get it, but I'm also working with this much rope. That's all I got. So, and it doesn't grab immediately, as you can see. So, it definitely feels like more compression. And I'm up to 100, which is the absolute bare fucking minimum you could have to start this thing. So, I'd assume it's not going to start too easily, but hopefully it will start. If it starts, you know, fucking problem solved, right? I'm going to do a slight heat cycle, drain the oil, and then it'll be ready to go if it fires. The last couple things I have to do is get the tank back on, connect the spark plug, connect the boot, and should be good to go. I did check to make sure that we still have spark. It is still sparking. I cleaned the carb as soon as I got the bike, so I know it's getting gas, and I know gas is going through that line, because even if I just take where I have it taped up there, if I take that off, it'll leak. So it's flowing good out the petcock. Carb, like I said, it's completely clean. So know it has fuel, know it has spark, it has just enough compression. So gonna try to fire it, and then if it fires, I'll be back. Doesn't sound the greatest, but there's a lot of loose shit in there. Alright, last video in the series. I did get it to run, as y'all just heard. The clanking sound was actually this piece where I snapped that bolt off. It just kind of vibrates there, which is why it sounded like shit. Also, the mixture is super oil heavy. It was pretty hard to start. Before I fucked up the mixture, it started first pull. But I went oil heavy because I didn't want to damage this brand new piston. And then I also deleted the oil pump. I'm going to figure this out later, but yeah, mixed gas now. But she runs and drives, and That's how you rebuild a top end.